2024 dating report. I am so excited to share with you full details of exactly how I approached my relationship goals this year. 2024 was the first year in a very long time, almost 8 years, that I wasn't in a relationship with anyone for the entire 12 months, and it gave me really rich data points about what I need. This dating break, in a way, was intentional. I realized that I had a lot of boundary issues and that these issues just kept repeating themselves over the past decade simply because I didn't have a way to deal with them. Now, I'm a matchmaker. I see boundary issues in my students every single day, but I needed to fix my own issues in order to attract the perfect partner. To be transparent, you do not need to heal yourself or be the perfectly mental condition before you attract your husband. I personally realized that I kept attracting guys who had these boundary issues, and I wanted to learn the skills of having clear boundaries before I committed to a relationship. Does that mean I didn't date at all? Of course not. I met a lot of wonderful men and went on several wonderful dates. I'm going to walk you through all of it. I spent the first 6 months of the year in Paris. Now, I have been living in Paris for the previous years, know the city extremely well, speak French fluently, understand the culture very well, and can get a French husband like that. It is a life skill. Finding a husband is a life skill. It is not magic. It is not unpredictable. It's not random. So I had mastered the skill of finding a husband in Paris. Who lives in Paris? The standard profile of a man who lives in Paris, first of all, he is French, because people who are not French tend to live in the suburbs. They do not live in the city center. Secondly, he is high earning. Paris is a high cost of living city. You need a lot of money in order for the homeowner to rent you a flat. And even if you choose to buy an apartment, you need to put down 20% according to French um, bank standards. So that's a lot of money. If the average apartment, even a two-bedroom apartment, is going to be $400,000 to $500,000, then you need to be able to put down $80,000 before you can rent your apartment, and that's not including notary fees. So if someone is buying an apartment in their 30s, very often they have family help, which means that they are white French. They grew up in France. This is a very standard profile of a guy who's doing well in Paris. He's a corporate employee because they will only rent to you if you have a stable job. So entrepreneurs tend not to live in Paris. Even if they're French entrepreneurs, they tend to go to Bali, places like that, to figure out their lives, and they only live in Paris if they are American. I wanted to meet business owners. So there are lots of American business owners in Paris, but again, totally different profile. So coming back to the kind of man I was targeting, I wanted to meet business owners who have successful businesses that are at least 10 years old and can support 2 to 3 people, for the simple reason that if a business is younger than 10 years old or making anything under $1 million a year, it's considered infancy stage, which means it's very stressful, very unpredictable, and you need to be as devoted to it as you would to a newborn child. A man who is earning under $1 million a year, whose business is at that revenue level, doesn't really have the time or mental space to focus on finding a wife or getting married. I know this firsthand as a business owner who has started multiple businesses, and I've met enough business owners to know this. So you need to have done all of this research in your ideal partner profile long before you start dating. In the Perfect Match program, we don't do any dating until you have a really clear ideal partner profile. And I've done this work because I've been a business owner for the last almost 10 years and know all of these facts and figures about being a business owner inside out. I have gone through them, spoken to other business owners, read books that talk about how to move through each of these phases. For the first time ever, though, I committed to meeting business owners rather than the standard profile of white French corporate employee, even though I was living in a city where that is the standard. And it was really enriching and exciting because it meant these guys matched future me. I also put big focus on my health. Now, in France, it is quite easy to be healthy because the food is very high quality thanks to government regulation. There is an abundance of unprocessed food. Even if you go to the grocery store, it's almost hard to buy processed food. Even the chips are very healthy. They're like made with olive oil. So it's quite easy. People have good levels of health, especially in Paris, a city that has a lot of stairs everywhere. You need to have a pretty good level of health in order to even set foot in the city, do all that walking, climb up all of those stairs. So it's easy to meet healthy guys, and all of the guys I met do lots of sports. There are gyms everywhere at every budget level. You can find a gym that's like €15 a month. So easy to meet healthy people and aligned with my values. And I put a lot of effort into stabilizing my home and work life so that I could focus on finding a partner. Over the last years, I've been thinking a lot, where do I want to live long term? I wasn't sure I could see myself in Paris or in Europe. I wasn't sure if I could live full time in the United States, although I have studied there, have family there. I could, but I just didn't know if I wanted to. And I also have a deep connection to India. I feel very nostalgic for it when I'm not in India. So I kind of was sorting all of this out. It took a lot of mental energy and organization that ultimately distracted from the partner search. So I'll walk through all of this with you. So for the first time ever this year, I dated based on my ideal partner profile. Your IPP is a Google Doc that describes your future husband in terms of his lifestyle, values, and mindset. It tells us what time he wakes up, which neighborhood he lives in, what his income is, what his work-life situation is like, what his family structure is like. All of this information is inside your IPP, and we build your IPP together inside the Perfect Match program. You need a clear IPP before you start dating. Most women are trying to go on dates and figure out if the guy could be a match, but my students in the Perfect Match program know by the time they are going on a date that the guy is at least an 80% match to their IPP. We don't date anyone who doesn't match your IPP. So for the first time ever, I met men who match my IPP, which is business owners, their companies at least 10 years old, can support 2 to 3 people minimum on their income. They can work remotely, they're family oriented, they love to travel and ride bicycles. Again, some of the stuff is common in Paris, but some of it is not. Like in France, it's very rare to be able to work remotely. So you might be thinking, how do I meet guys if I don't find anyone in my city? I am showing you proof that I met men in the city where I was living who can work remotely, even though as a national standard in France, it is rare. It is possible, you just need to know exactly what you are looking for. So in France, someone who is working full-time remotely is probably a business owner. They're probably self-employed. That's why they can give themselves permission to work remotely, because most companies don't. So that is another reason why I targeted business owners. I had a laser focus on my health, started walking 10K steps a day, drinking 3 liters of water very strictly, trying to sleep better, taking magnesium tablets. All of these steps were really fundamental to me having the kind of good mood and happiness that would enable me to be more attractive and interesting to the kind of guys I wanted to meet. I stuck to my diet, so I've been doing a zero inflammation diet, the carnivore diet from the prior year, but this year I actually got serious, dialed down, and it gave me insane energy levels, slept better, looked better, my skin was brighter, and I could survive on less sleep as well if I had a bad night of sleep or a late night, which meant that I just had way more bandwidth to be open to guys. A lot of the students who reach out to me are on the standard Indian diet, roti, dal, vegetables. It's yummy, don't get me wrong, I love it too, but the standard Indian diet is highly inflammatory. So if that is your bread and butter, literally, that is what you're surviving on, it is a big reason why you might not have energy, not have the desire to go out and meet guys, simply because the standard Indian diet upsets our guts. And when your gut is upset, it's very hard to be open to anyone or anything because you're in such pain and discomfort all the time. So I would start there by focusing on changing my diet to an anti-inflammatory diet. I went outside my comfort zone this year. As I mentioned, I used to date French corporate professionals. Even when I didn't live in Europe, I would meet them. And when I lived in the US, people would say, hey, let's meet for coffee. And then you just never hear from them again. So I was always so disoriented when I'd meet guys who were raised in the US. I was like, oh, like, are we gonna meet? Or like, what happened? And they would just, blow me off. But that is very normal in the US. People say things that they don't necessarily mean, and this is just part of the culture. So when I started meeting Europeans through my work as a climate change economist, I felt super comfortable with them because in Europe, your word counts for a lot more. It's just culturally more normal. So if someone says to you, let's meet on Friday at 7 p.m., they mean it. And I felt more comfortable, and so I got into this rut of dating French guys because I spoke French as well. So they felt comfortable with me without ever analyzing, is this the kind of man I want to marry and why? So me not dating French guys or not dating Europeans was a big way of going outside my comfort zone, especially because I had been living and working in Europe for so long that even though I'm not European at all, I felt very comfortable in this environment. Meeting so many different people really opened my mind and just showed me how big the world is, how abundant the world is. If you feel today like you are not meeting the kind of guys you would marry, you probably just aren't meeting enough people, and you need to start by actually meeting more people rather than trying to meet, only your future husband. I've made a massive focus on simplifying my business. So in the past, I did a lot of coaching calls at least once a month, and the year prior, 2023, I was doing coaching calls at least once a week, and I was doing all of my sales for my business through calls. But this is really ineffective when you need to go out. So a lot of meetup events in France start at 7, 7:30 p.m., 8 p.m., and I would often be doing calls till 7 p.m., 8 p.m., sometimes 9 p.m. So it was a big clash, and I realized, okay, I need to stop doing calls so I can focus completely on meeting new people. But can I still run my business without doing any calls? The answer was yes, you can adjust your life to match your goals. I stopped doing all calls completely, and I still made money. I still made even more money actually, which was very exciting. So I still don't do any calls, and people still join the Perfect Match program, which is wonderful. If you feel like your work life is not matching your goals, you don't have time to date, you need to have a conversation with your boss and say, I really want to get married. This is what I need to do to get married. I need to date. I need to have time in my schedule to meet husband material men. Help me structure my calendar so that I don't need to sit in meetings that go nowhere. Most of us, if we're losing at time at work, we're not able to finish our work in the time allotted, the 40 hours a week you're working, it's because we're doing a lot of meetings, and 90% of meetings are completely useless. It's because there is someone who wants to hear themselves talk. That meeting could have been solved in a memo. Read the 4-hour work week if you haven't yet, so that you can start eliminating meetings from your life. And the more you eliminate meetings and calls, the faster it is to get into your focus hours where you get your work done. And when you get your work done, your brain is mentally free to focus on meeting husband material men. I found a co-working space that I love. I've had this in the past. It yields incredible fruits. Co-working is not like you show up one day and you meet a guy. You have to sit there every single day for months to meet a guy. But when you meet that guy, he's a 10 out of 10 prospect. I found this to be true in co-working. So you have to commit, but the returns are incredibly high, and you are getting your work done by sitting in that co-working space. So I did that. I started reading business books. It's been a goal of mine for the past 5 years. I had to create a commute for myself to have the time to sit down and read. But the business books gave me so many ideas that could also be applied to my love life. It was so valuable. I realized that all the answers to questions we have are in books. We just don't read them. So if you're struggling, you probably need more time to learn new dating skills, which are in books. And I also teach you these skills inside the Perfect Match program. I began working with a new coach. Again, you don't need a coach. Nobody needs a coach. But if you are trying to achieve a big goal, a delusional goal, delulu if you like, and it feels out of reach, a coach can help you, and a coach can help you smash these goals out of the park in a far shorter timeline than you would without that coach, simply because she helps me break down any mindset blocks that come up. And really, it's only mindset blocks that we are dealing with. What broke this year? Alright, a lot of stuff broke. Here's a picture of my very beautiful co-working, probably the most beautiful co-working in all of India. So I can work remotely, as we have discussed, and I like being able to work remotely. So I tried being a digital nomad. Logical conclusion, right? You can work from anywhere, you love traveling, why not combine the two? I lived out of a carry-on and my computer for 6 months. It was a complete disaster. My business is no longer at the stage where I can just do whatever. It is growing very fast. A lot of people rely on me, and I want to maintain a certain level of quality. So to do that, I need a massive amount of stability in my personal life. if not complete and total predictability. So I was in Airbnb. Some of the Airbnbs had other people. One of the ladies who I rented from, she was like, "You should not be doing this. You should just get an apartment and like live by yourself or with your partner. Like, do not do Airbnbs. Do not change. Do not have roommates." So it was a big lesson to me to create more stability in my life and to commit to my priorities. One of which is growing my company. Again, when you're changing homes all the time, you don't always know what you're getting. A lot of the Airbnbs had very uncomfortable mattresses, or someone was making noise next door, or something was missing, like the soap would be missing in the bathroom. Not big issues in a micro level, but very big issues for my overall sense of security and predictability, which you need to focus on big goals like getting married and growing your career. That was a problem. Too much choice. I opened myself up to not only dating men in Paris, but therefore I was super open and super confused. A guy who lives in New York has different things he's dealing with, different choices than a guy who lives in Berlin, than a guy who lives in Mumbai. And while all of them shared the same lifestyle values and mindset, it was just too chaotic for my brain. So for 2025, I'm focusing on one city, one neighborhood, only one profile, no geographic variety whatsoever. I didn't take enough holiday. Again, plan to fail, fail to plan, plan to fail. So that was a big, big issue. As an entrepreneur, I have to be really rigid about taking time off. I'm still learning how to get better at this, but I didn't do it very well in 2024, and I was just always tired. That was no nice. I didn't also travel very much. I traveled a lot, but to places that I've been before. I realized that I just need that excitement of going to a place I've never been before. It just gives me so much joy. I remember I went in 2024 to Istanbul for the first time, and I've never been there. I didn't love the city, but I was so excited about going there. And this year I am going to Kashmir. 2025, I'm going to Kashmir for the first time. So excited. I don't know if I'll love it. It doesn't really matter. It's just exciting to go to somewhere new. So I've booked out all of my trips for 2025 in advance. A lot of them are to places I've never been before. Here is a photo of the folks I met in my yoga retreat in Mysore. Now, I'm super passionate about yoga. A lot of these people, everyone was just absolutely lovely. It was such a wonderful environment. But none of these people are people who I would marry, nor am I someone they would feel comfortable living with. We have different life standards, different expectations, and it taught me how important it is to spend your time around people you would actually marry if you are trying to get married. Simply because a month is a long time, and although we share the same interest and passion in yoga and the same value of waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to start doing yoga, our lifestyles in our daily lives don't match, which is why you need an ideal partner profile before you go and meet anyone. And if I had been looking at my IPP, I probably wouldn't have gone to this retreat. Overall, I met lots of men who were ready to settle down in Paris, but none of them were business owners. And the business owners I did meet were just not very nice people. I think it's because they have worked so hard for the last 10 years. They've killed themselves to grow their businesses, which part of that is required. Growing a business can be very, very challenging, and it requires total and complete dedication. Therefore, they had been single for the last 10 years. They just have had zero cuddles, zero fuss, as we say. When a man is single for a very long time, it makes him bitter and resentful. This happens to women too, but it's worse for men. So these men were just not very nice people, and therefore they were not nice to me. I was like, oh, right, okay, you don't want to talk to me? Fine. But that was not fun. I realized I need to be with someone who is nice. Secondly, because I met so many different kinds of people, I realized just how big the world is. If you feel like you're not meeting the kinds of guys where you live, and you feel like there aren't potential husbands for you where you live, you are probably experiencing a scarcity mindset. And the way to switch to an abundant mindset is to start meeting different kinds of people. Even if you don't end up marrying them, like me with my yoga camp, it just will still open your mind. I also realized how important it is to be happy. I met so many people last year who I wouldn't marry, but I was just happy to be with them, happy not to be with them. I was just happy, especially when I was in India doing that yoga camp in a very beautiful city. I was just so happy to be there, and that was what made me attractive to them. If you want to meet people organically, you need to plan for it. If you go through my dating reports month by month, you'll see that the months that I planned, I met lots of people. The months I had no plan, I met no one. And I am an extrovert. I'm very good at talking to new people. I've got great social skills. I'm an excellent listener. Despite all of that, there were some months where I met no one, which reminded me it is so essential to plan your dating life and to track the success of your dating life, just like you track how your investments are doing, how much money you are saving each month, and how you put aside money every month for a big expense like buying a house or sending money home to your parents. You want to do the same thing with your dating life if you want to make progress in this. In any city, people invest in you when they see that you're going to stick around. So for 2025, I've picked an apartment in one city, and I've also signed up for tennis lessons, which is a daily commitment. When people saw that I had that, that's when they started to open up to me. Before that, I was transient, and therefore they weren't sure if I was going to stay or not, and it made them a lot more reticent to open up to me. And finally, health is wealth. In our modern world, especially in the United States and in India, it is very taboo to talk about health. Both the US and India are going through obesity epidemics. The average person you meet is overweight, if not outright obese. And we have even normalized being fat by saying you're big boned. There is no such thing as being big boned. There is inflamed, and then there's people whose guts are very happy. And to have a happy gut is a full time job. It's not eating food that inflames us, it's eating foods that are highly inflammatory. So, if today you feel like you don't have energy for dating, you are probably highly inflamed and you need to switch to an anti inflammatory diet. It's not even that you need to go to the gym. You do not need the gym. The gym is a modern invention. You need foods that don't make your gut start screaming in pain. Because when our guts are unhappy, we are unhappy and we cannot focus on meeting new people. This is a choice that we all have. It's a variable that we can control every single day, every minute of every day. You can control what you put into your body. It's not random. So the best and easiest way I have found this year to put myself in a good mood, ensure that I'm happy, make myself feel open and relaxed and easygoing, is to control what I put in my body and make sure that I'm having an anti-inflammatory diet every single day of the week. No cheat meals. Things take as long as you give them. So I think this is called Murphy's Law, but if you tell yourself, I have 2 years to find a partner, it will take 2 years. There's someone I follow, Leila Hormozi, and she talks about how she went on Bumble to meet guys and she went on 60 dates before she met her husband. I don't think she had a deadline in mind. I think she was like, I want to find someone. I'm just going to go on however many dates it takes. So it's not that she had a deadline in mind and it took her 18 months to meet her husband. She could have committed to someone else before him, but she didn't have a deadline in mind. I'm sure she realized during those dates, okay, many of them are not matching, and she's super passionate about business. But a lot of the guys she was dating were not business owners at all until she met her husband, who's also a super passionate business owner like her. So you want to give yourself a deadline with all of your goals, especially with finding a partner, because if whatever the deadline that you give yourself will end up becoming true. I got a lot better at saying no. Again, major problem in all of my past relationships. I couldn't say no. I would pick people who were a safe match rather than the perfect match, simply because I wasn't using an IPP, not in my work, not in my friendships, and not in my partner choices. So for the first time in my life, I started saying no. Even if a guy was great, if he was anything less than a 10 out of 10, I said nope. And this was extremely empowering. It just felt so good because I would rather be with someone who's a 10 out of 10 than with someone who's a 9 out of 10, and every single day I'm like, oh, what about that last 10%? I had to stop spending time with people who are not goal oriented. You might not have any people like this in your life, but I had quite a number of them, and I very gently but consistently cut them out. It saves a lot of mental energy when you're like, you're not aligned, goodbye. So let's talk about what I'm doing differently in 2025. I'm going to travel a lot more. And for most of my students, travel can be unpredictable. I had a student in the past who would be like, oh, I have a free weekend. Oh, it's a public holiday. Oh, like, I've got a day off work, let me go travel. And so all of her travel was random. If you love to travel like I do, you want to have it scheduled in advance. So if you meet a guy and you start going out with him, you can communicate this to him. Men need to know what they're getting into with you. If they don't know when you're going to be in town, when you're not going to be in town, they don't feel safe enough to commit and to open up to you. You want to give them that feeling of safety and security by saying, here's my calendar, here's when I'm available, here's when I'm not, let's plan. And that is how you teach them that you are a safe option for them. I'm going to take lots of paid time off. So I have worked very hard on setting up my business so that I now have passive income coming in. I now make sales that don't require any work whatsoever. They happen through Facebook ads. And so I can make money even when I'm not sitting at my desk, even when I'm on holiday. And I have almost 6 months of holiday on my schedule in 2025. I'm going to try start going to conferences. I haven't scheduled any of my calendar. It's not like a top priority, but it is something that if I see an opportunity come up, I will definitely go for it. I've found a really nice apartment that is going to be my home base. This was a major point of tension for me in the last 5 years. I just didn't have a really nice and stable home base. So there was always some problem with my apartment, like the heating didn't work, or the heating, it was like very old heating, so it's just overpriced. Something was always missing, or the windows didn't have. There was like single pane windows instead of double pane. There was always some issues. So I finally put in the effort to work with a broker to find an apartment that was really nice, that I feel so proud and happy to live in. I've hired a housekeeper who basically she is in charge of all of the home stuff. I don't even do it. I don't know where half the stuff in the house is. She does. And this is a big way in which I am A, up leveling, B, getting myself into the vibe of safety and security, which attracts men, and 3, creating more time and mental energy for myself. And finally, I have been trying a lot of new things in 2024, which was really nice. I would like to continue to do this. So it's more in terms of keeping space open in my calendar for these invitations when they come up so that I can say yes to them. I hope that you have enjoyed hearing about how I approached my goals of meeting husband material men in 2024. Overall, given how much change I went through, I would call it a pretty successful year. A lot of it was spent getting back up to my happiness level. I wanted to feel 10 out of 10 happy. Like there was nothing that would really make me dramatically more happy because I'm already overflowing with happiness. And in January, I was really struggling with that. I wasn't even sleeping. By December, though, I did get to that point. I felt 10 out of 10 happy. I'm so good in my life. I feel so grateful every day to be on this planet. And things are always working out for me. Plus, in December, at the end of the year, it just became so much easier to attract husband material men. It's like effortless. So, thank you so much for watching. My name is Malai Kaneri. If you'd like more information on how you yourself can meet and date husband material men in the city where you live, click the link below to check out the Perfect Match program. I would love to welcome you in there. Check out the other videos on my YouTube channel and make sure to like, share, and subscribe so that this channel can grow and more women can get access to high quality information on how to find a husband. I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.